Welcome to selfdiscoverymedia.com, where we discover the communities that are making a difference in the lives of others. Our self-discovery is something we are all making on our life's journey. Here you will find the people that will be your guidance, that will be your inspiration, that will be there for you in support on your journey of life. Do enjoy. Our next show is... Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everybody. Welcome to Ignite Your Heart and Soul right here on selfdiscoverymedia.com. I'm your host, Sarah Troy, and my wonderful guest all the way from Scotland is Leslie Marsh. Whose talk are you walking? Is it yours? We inherit stories that push our own out of reach. We are then weaving a cloth of limitations with threads of expectations and fears of others. What about our own stories? What if we become the authors of our own story? What if we wove the design of our own lives? This is what she's written. This is what we're going to be speaking about today. Leslie is... gosh, she's done quite a lot here. Was a veterinary nurse, worked in Morocco and France, back in London, where she became head nurse of a very busy small animal practice. She's hung up her stethoscope, and she became master practitioner of NLP, Erickson hypnosis, and storytelling. And she has many healing modalities that can be used to bring balance and harmony back into view. Formerly training in shamanic practices in Glasgow with Howard and Elsa Malapis of the Warrior and the Heart Foundation. And since then, she has worked with shamans in Europe, Canada, and Nepal. So today is about whose talk and whose walk are we living? I say this all the time. We are constantly living up to somebody else's expectation, some society's dictation of who we should be and how we should behave and what we should become and what the definition of success is. And then we find ourselves kind of flapping on the branch in the wind going, who the hell am I? What am I really here to do? Because I don't feel attached to anything. And I can't live up to this expectation. So how do we become ourselves? That's the question, isn't it, Leslie? Welcome to the show, love.
Hi, Sarah. I think you are absolutely right, but of course I would, because that's the story. And it's a case of we are consistently dissociating ourselves from source.
Mm-hmm.
But in order to get through to that source, we have to go through a whole minefield of different expectations, different ideas, different duties, guilts, and the wonder of it is that we actually get through a day, never mind a whole lifetime.
Yes. Yes. Yeah. It's kind of rather painful, really, isn't it? And I think, social media is one where we really see a great deal of this, of either the one-upmanship or the competing, or that I'm only important if I've got this many followers, or if I'm doing this. Oh, I'm doing videos every day. Oh gosh, have I got to do that now to live up to that expectation? And we really don't know how to be true to ourselves, because very often we just don't know who the hell we are.
This is also true. It's a case of we're looking outward for validation
Mm.
now instead of looking inward. And part of that's got to do with the selfish thing. You can't be selfish. You can't think of yourself. How dare you? But actually, what's the first thing they tell you on the aeroplane? It's a
Mm-hmm.
cliche, but it's true. You have to take the mask yourself before you can help anyone else. And it doesn't matter if you're a wounded healer or not, whether you've been there or not. Some people are so empathetic they don't actually have to have had or done or been
Yeah.
through what the other person has, because at some point in their life they've opened up to the idea that there are things, there are vibrations, there are energies that are going on that are so jagged and so stabbing that they are actually lethal in many cases, but that somehow they can bring balance to that. And that's a talent that's given to all of us because we all have that inside us, the ability to balance ourselves. Because actually, what we're doing is we are always seeking to harmonize with the universe.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Being
somehow,
in tuned with it, right?
Yeah, it's some kind of like an out of tune piano. We need our strings tuning up and twitching up,
Mm,
and getting used to understanding that that is the case, that you have a choice.
hmm.
That is an anathema to people too. It's totally, I have a what? Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
How does that work?
Hmm. I don't have to blindly, like sheeple, follow everyone else. I can actually make my own choices.
Mm.
And that is even actually abstaining from a choice is a choice, right?
Yes, yes, it is. Um,
And and being aligned with the universe, that is how we get our divine information, that resonates with the heart and truth and goes to the spirit interaction, and how our mind knows what it needs to know when it needs to know it. We are meant to be channelers of the universal energy, because that's like our encyclopedia up there, our counselor, our coach, our everything. And the more
oh
we open
yeah,
up to it, the more we're guided and never alone.
definitely. I mean, Carl Jung was most. He was really jacked into the universe when it came up with the collective consciousness, because it. And I don't know if you watch Phoebe from Friends when she's getting her ideas and she's going, ooh, 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 yeah, ooh, ooh, and it's like she's just picking them,
Yeah,
plucking them out of the air, and
yeah,
actually, that is very much what it's like.
yeah,
An idea comes socking straight into you when you're open enough to be able to see it and to understand it. And this is why it's so good to be able to learn to be silent, learn to be
yeah,
still, and to allow your brain to stop doing the chugga train of, yes, I'm a machine, I gotta keep thinking, I gotta keep thinking, I gotta go here, I gotta go there, I gotta do this, I gotta do that. And then suddenly your brain goes, um, I can't be everywhere at once. And then you can't think at all.
yeah.
So you have to kind of draw, as we say, draw your horns in, rein yourself in, and allow that overwhelm to just go over there and sit down and take a look at it and say, okay, what actually happened there? Did I throw a rod, or have I just run out of fuel?
Mm, yeah.
Let's have a look.
Hmm.
And basically, the idea that we have every day when we wake up, things will be coming into our heads, and then somebody will remind you that that's not your job.
Hmm.
Somebody will say to you, what makes you think that you can do that? What are you thinking about? That's a
Hmm.
daft idea.
Hmm.
I don't understand where you get these ideas from. And that's their fear. That's their, ooh, I don't understand that, so it must be bad.
Right.
I don't understand that, so they're no better than me. So how can they have better ideas than me?
Hmm.
And it's very much, to go biblical, it's very much like the prophet not being recognized in their own country.
Hmm.
If you've grown up with someone, and suddenly perhaps they might go away to university, or they go away to work abroad, or something happens to broaden their horizons, extend and give them a vista vision instead of a pinpoint focus to a certain extent.
Yeah.
And they come back and they have these different ways of looking at things. And you see that and you think, ooh, not sure if I like that. And it's like the idea that you become addicted, almost insanely attached to the idea of, this is my tiny space.
Mm.
I'm happy here. Are you?
An illusion.
Are you happy
Hmm.
because you're everything you know is in this one space? And for some people that's absolutely true. For some people that's their thing, and they're totally at home in that space and they flourish there. But for others, they are absolutely desperate to get out,
Yeah.
to let their soul fly, to open their heart and sing a song that is not the one they've been hearing since they were in the womb. They
That's
want
me.
to be able to. Yeah, I mean, if you don't have people who are going to be different, we'd still be in the caves.
Right. Exactly. Why are we so afraid of people being different? Is it because, oh, Um, they're different. Do they expect me to be the same? Or do they expect me to do something now? Can I do it? Should I do it? Am I capable of doing it? Do I want to do it? And I think it's not so much the person that has evolved. It is, I think, more a reflection of do we want to? Are we afraid to? Um, because people think it's stepping out of their comfort zone.
Mm,
And really, it's stepping out of their fear zone, their limitation zone,
yeah. I mean,
right?
Richard Bandler calls it the familiarity zone.
Yeah.
And I think I agree quite with that. And also, a friend of mine once described it as sitting in a bath of custard. You
I
know
like
it.
custard.
Well, yeah, but do you want to take a bath in it when it's over?
No.
And it's like you're sitting there and you know it's icky.
Yeah.
You know you really don't want to be there. But it's just so familiar. It's the same temperature as you
Hmm.
are now. There's a kind of uncomfortable comfortableness
Yeah.
all around it. And you can see way across there, you can see there's a nice fluffy robe on the back of the door. There's a nice big fluffy towel. But between you and that robe is a very drafty room
Hmm.
with flagstones that might wobble, and you're not entirely sure what will happen when you take your foot out of that bath, and you like pull yourself out of there. And even when you do get yourself there and you've rubbed it all down and you're just about to put your robe on when you look back and there's that bath and it's still full. And what do? Well, some of us, instead of going out the door and leaving it where it is, will go back and stick our hand straight back in it again in order to try and pull the plug out,
Hmm.
which of course we're going to fish around for and then fall straight back in.
Right.
And
Yeah.
it is the familiarity.
Yeah.
It's the I know. It's the devil I know.
Yes.
It's my safe place. I feel safe here. Doesn't matter that it's not good for me.
Right. Yeah. I know what's expected of me here.
Exactly. And
Right.
in a
I don't know
way,
what those expectations are out there, but here I know what they are, whether I like them or not.
well, this is it. It's a case of, from my own experience as far as expectation is concerned. My parents were told when I was at primary school, oh, don't worry because by the time Leslie leaves school, the tills will be making the change for her. So she'll be able to work behind a counter at a supermarket or in a shop. And that was because, well, it wasn't invented then, but I've got dyscalculia. I have number blindness. There's a little bit of
Ah.
a disconnect between me and maths. And I can get great big concepts, but when it comes to actual arithmetic, sometimes I come up with some interesting answers. And actually, the worst part of it I found was the emotional attachment that came with it,
Yeah.
which was shame
Yes. Yes.
and embarrassment. And not just my own shame and embarrassment,
Mm.
but the shame and embarrassment of my parents who had to stand there and listen to a teacher, a
Mm.
figure of authority, telling them that I was actually not good enough even to be at their school.
Mm.
And I think
Yeah.
that was the only time my mother got mad and decided to put her foot down and say, no, she's staying here.
Hmm.
You're not sending her off into somewhere that, she's just going to be forgotten about. She's going to stay there. But that's the interesting thing about it. I actually lived down to those expectations.
Yeah.
And they were not very high. And it's a case of when nothing is expected of you, to a greater extent, you tend not to do anything.
Hmm.
Because you don't have to try because nobody expects you to be successful anyway.
Right. Yes.
And to be perfectly honest with you, it became something of a like the blue touch paper stand well back situation because my inner maverick, my inner rebellious person, my little defiant person was sitting in the wings waiting. I'm gonna get my chance anytime now. I'm just gonna have a little word in your ear
Yeah.
and it'll happen one day when you're bored. And of course it did. And it happened when I was 11 years old. It happened before, but the biggest one happened when I was 11 years old. And I was at school and I was just getting into big school, which is getting close to the point where you get to decide what you're going to be when you grow up
Right. Like
properly.
you have any idea at that age.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a case of you have to do this, and we'll see what you're like, and we'll pick your subjects for you if you don't know what you want to do.
Hmm.
And my mother had decided that actually you don't have to count to be a secretary.
Right.
So you'll be a secretary. And I was like, what? My two sisters are secretaries. I don't like what happens with them.
Hmm.
You know, they work 5 days a week and then they come back and every night they're like so bored and they have no, they're just bored.
Hmm.
So I'm sitting in the secretarial class and the teacher who had had my two sisters also, so I knew already what she was like because they told me.
Right.
Genghis Khan in drag in a very bad mood. Foul mood.
What a vision.
Absolutely. Oh, absolutely. Tight curly perm, twin set and pearls, and it was one of those hairy woolly suit things, so it was probably uncomfortable really as well. She was
Hmm.
probably wearing a hair shirt almost, as
Hmm.
far as that's concerned. And why I chose to do that, I don't know. I was very good at going into daydreamland
Hmm. Hmm.
and dreaming up and it was a beautiful day and the sun is shining and I'm looking outside, I'm thinking, I don't want to be here. What am I going to do about it? So I broke another rule. I pulled the paper out, put it in the bin, and put another one in, and started typing. Now these machines were massive.
Hmm.
You had Arnold Schwarzenegger's biceps on your pinkies by the time you'd finished making your things with this clanging big machine. And suddenly the sun went out and my world came to a full stop. This tweeded arm shot right across my shoulder and pulled the paper out of the roller. And every single child in that class had stopped typing. And there were 25 of us in there. And they all looked at me, and every single one of them, I could hear it. You're gonna get the belt.
Oof.
And I was like, what am I going to tell my mother? She's gonna kill me. I wasn't even interested in the fact I was going to get the belt. My
Right.
mother found me a lot more
Hmm.
than this teacher did. And it felt like a eons, but she got me back in there. And she called me through. And I was rubbing my hands on my skirt, trying to, to get the sweat off in case it hurt more with that. And I walked in, and the belt's still hanging up in the cupboard, and she's just putting the phone down. And she said to me, "Are you serious about this?" And I thought I'd stepped into another dimension. I was waiting for the berating, I was waiting for the shouting and bawling, and I was. So I thought, oh, I might as well be hung for a sheep as a lamb. Uh, yes, I'm serious about it. I don't want to. I don't want to work as a secretary. I want to work in a zoo because I'd written, "Dear sir, please can I work in your zoo?" And then that's when everything stopped. And she said, "Good." And again, it was like, bam! Have another shock, why don't you? I good. Um, okay. Have you been at the sherry this morning or something? It, uh, and she said, I've got you an appointment at 11 o'clock on Sunday morning with the curator of the zoo. Do not let me down. I was too much in shock to even be slightly happy or euphoric about it,
Right.
which I was later. And the one thing again was my mother. She said, "Don't worry about your mother. I will speak to her." So I couldn't believe that this had happened. But
Especially with her.
yeah, but just as I was about to go out of the door, she said, "I'm going to tell you why now. And if you tell anyone, I will give you the belt." Noted. So she said, when I was your age, I wanted to work with animals, and they wouldn't let me.
Mm.
Which then explained the whole Genghis Khan
Yes.
buttoned up the back,
Hmm.
growling and stomping and shouting at children and doing the whole thing because she just wasn't happy.
Right.
And I ended up taking myself off into a whole different tangent of life that my whole life had been getting mapped before me by
Mm-hmm.
other people's stories. Secretary, it's a good clean job.
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be 5 days a week. It's good money. And anyway, you're going to meet a man, get married, and have babies, and you won't need a job
Right.
because this was the early 60s.
Mm-hmm.
And you didn't, that just didn't happen.
Excuse me, my rainbow.
That's all right. See, my rainbow came out. You're
Yes.
with me. You're with
It's
me.
it's from my daughter's baby shower and it just keeps popping up and it will not go. So it
This
keeps
is happy times.
coming. Yeah.
So, yeah, so my story actually had begun very much earlier in my situation, in the situation of my birth. For the
Mhm.
first 5 years of my life, my mother was my mother, and then at the age of 5, she suddenly became my sister because I was adopted by my grandparents. And the
Oh.
person who was my mother and then became my sister actually went off to Ireland with another man, and she was actually pregnant again. She married this one, so that was fine. But it was a case of that actually became my bundle to carry
Mm,
because it didn't matter that I was too young to even accept the fact that it had happened or understand what was going on. That part's been kind of blocked out to a certain extent. And it was a case of everyone else in the village knew what was going on.
mm,
So I got to carry the bundle of my mother's shame.
yeah.
And I thought, oh well, it must be mine because I wouldn't be given it if it wasn't mine.
Hmm. And you
So
see,
it's
when we talk about
amazing.
choice, you had no choice in the matter. The only
I,
choice you
I,
had is what you were going to do with it.
I was too young to make an informed
Yeah.
consent.
Yeah.
And I think that that's the case because even at that, it wasn't a conscious decision. It was just a case of my grandmother, who was looking after me and had adopted me at this point, was so busy thinking about what people would think of
Mm,
her and about how she'd been bringing up her children and the shame and the how bad it was and how was she going to see it, and every day seeing me the big blot on the copybook,
yeah.
you know and it was a case of it's your fault. Actually, no, it's not. And it's actually a choice of yours to take it that way.
Right.
And
Yeah.
a choice is a decision, and a decision is a choice.
Yeah. And all has consequences.
And everything has consequences.
Hmm.
Fortunately for me, the consequences of that were that I got very much left alone to my own devices a lot. Because my parents were a lot older than me. And I used
Right.
to get shunted off to my sister down south
Hmm.
because she came back and lived in England. But I used to get shunted off to my sister every summer. So I got to have two personas.
Hmm.
And in each one, I still wanted to run away. And I never knew why I had such itchy feet. For a long time, I didn't know why I had such itchy feet. And then I discovered that my biological father is a gypsy.
Ah, right. Yeah.
And it was a case of, wow, well, there you go.
Yep. Explains.
That's a great part of the story. That is, what can and I went back and thinking about what was in me that made me do that was quite possibly the influence of that culture,
Hmm.
the influence of that blood. But at the same time, being left the way that I was left opened up a vista for me of if I was doing it under the radar, nobody was going to stop me.
Right.
So I read. I read stories, I read fairy tales. I would go to the library and it had a wall of books on fairy tales from countries that don't even exist anymore,
Hmm.
you know? And this empowered me. And then I got this big magazine called Tell Me Why. And it did tell me why. And it went from the dinosaurs, the Big Bang, the dinosaurs, right the way through to where we are or where we were in the 60s and the early 70s. But through all that was still this burden that you walk with.
Mm-hmm.
And also, there were some other things going on where I was actually able to see things that other people didn't see.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a little bit of a communication with animals thing going on, and hence ending up at the zoo.
Mm-hmm.
And I managed to hide from people. It was like the ugly duckling situation, one of my favourites again. But
Mm-hmm.
it was like the ugly duckling hiding away from the people
Where
because
the
they,
animals got you anyway, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
And it was a case of, oh, I'm safe here.
Yes.
I like it here because they don't judge me. They don't do this,
No.
and I can be with them, and it's comfortable. It's
Mm.
actually harmonious to be here,
Mm-hmm.
and that was nice. It made my heart sing. My door towards the zoo. My heart opened, my feet got lighter, and I could even ride the wind there if I wanted to,
Mm-hmm.
which is something else that I learned later was something that other people couldn't do. But this was it. My life was full of people who were so burdened with
Right.
negativity.
Expectation again,
And
right?
it was the
Dictation again.
expectations
Mm.
and the actual trying in vain to live either down or up,
Mm-hmm.
to very, very fixed expectations of duty and demands and the guilt complexes that were put on them for various things. And, my parents grew up, my mother particularly grew up really hard. And my grandfather was very quick with his hands, it seems. And I got on great with my grandfather, but when my mum was a little girl, seemingly he would come back on a Friday night from the
Mm-hmm.
pub, and there would be a widespread go, and that kind of atmosphere is not going to be one that nurtures a positive
No.
mindset.
No. No.
And
Constantly living
with,
in the residual of fear, right?
yeah, and this is it. Most of the time, it's the fear factor,
Yeah.
and yet understanding how bullies and how things work. My grandfather was possibly one of the most insecure men out there,
Right. Well, that's generally where it comes from, right?
and he'd done everything that he could. And the thing was, he was a bare knuckle fighter from Waterford in Ireland. So it was the first thing he knew to do when he couldn't vocalise what it
Right.
was that he wanted. He used his fists.
Yes.
Not an excuse, just a fact.
That's all he knew how. He
That's all
couldn't
he knew
express him,
how.
hadn't been taught how to express himself in any other way.
No. And now we've got this opportunity at the moment, particularly, where the earth is taking a breath
Yeah.
from us, taking a rest from us to a certain extent, as much as it can, because there's still things going on that shouldn't be going on,
Mm-hmm.
but at the same time, it's taking a breath. And yet, now we are finding, particularly when we are isolated, because we are pack animals,
Yeah.
we do like our packs, and it's now we're understanding that some of our leaders'
Mm-hmm.
expectations of the people who put them there are that they can poke the bear with fear
Yeah.
and
And we
not
know
tell
that's
them
not very
anything.
productive, is it?
It's not. No, you
No,
just
it's
get
not
them in
creative. It's
fear,
not productive. Yeah.
and you get a population that are subdued
Yes.
and not doing what they could be doing. Where we are, as humans, adaptable.
Mm-hmm.
We have adaptability built in. It's part of our factory default,
Yeah.
and it's how we survive. It's how we thrive. It's
Mm-hmm.
how we got to be the largest predator on the planet, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Apart from now, we have a bigger one that's the smallest thing on Earth, a virus.
Right. True.
So,
Yes. The
and it's
unseen.
the unseen. However, it's our reaction to this.
Mm-hmm.
It's viruses and bacteria, particularly nasty. They are all still natural.
Yes.
even when they've been monkeyed around with,
Hmm.
they're still of a natural basis. First point, focus. Now, what we do is we have then the choice. Do we tell a story of fear and anxiety and pain and worry about going out into the future, about what's going to happen when it all goes wrong?
Hmm.
Or do we sit with this and say, okay, these are the consequences of, how do I deal with that, and how do I keep myself balanced
That's the key, isn't it?
so that I can balance out everything else?
Hmm.
Because when it comes to balancing things, you can take a room of chaos, absolute mind blowing chaos. However, when you have someone who is balanced sitting in the middle of it or just walking in the door, it's amazing how that chaos will start to dissipate.
Hmm. Or
When we
become
actually,
productive or orderly, right?
yeah,
Mm.
yeah. Granted, if it's a fight in a pub, it's less likely to be right there and then. But on the grand scale of things, when someone who comes into and it's like anything. I saw something the other day there, and it was Louis Theroux, and he was discussing something with someone who was getting really angry with him and very frustrated, and he was just standing there, just very calmly repeating his question, and the person that was against him that was just, it was like he was Teflon.
Yes.
He was not moving, and they had nothing to do but barge at him, throw insults at him, try to make him fearful, and when that wasn't working, they had to go away.
That is actually something my mum used to say to me because I was bullied a lot because I was a sickly child. And she said, let them come at you, pretend to be doing something else, and then turn around to them and say, I'm sorry, were you talking to me? I didn't hear.
Mm.
And to let them know that they couldn't get, didn't matter what was going on inside of you. Your stomach's doing leaps of turmoil, right? But your whole thing is, I'm not feeding that. I'm not responding to that. And it frustrates the hell out of them because they didn't get your goat, right? So
Yes,
you're not giving that response back, which is very hard not to do because that's what we want to do, defend ourselves, or the injustice of it, or how dare you, blah 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 blah. We want to do that, but if we are not responsive whatsoever, then where is the fight?
and a lot of it has got to do with this outward validation that we were talking
Yeah.
about earlier. I have to be seen to be powerful, otherwise nobody will respect me.
Right.
It's not even a case of liking. It's a case of I want respect, and I can only get that through being powerful over other people or other things.
Yeah,
And
which
that,
we know is a sign of insecurity.
yeah, it's a sign of
Right.
having no power whatsoever.
Right.
That which we seek is that which we don't have,
Mm-hmm.
or we feel we don't have it, and it's out of control inside us, and we don't quite know where the button is to
Mm-hmm.
switch it off or switch it on.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I've often been heard to say that at one point we turned on a light and put ourselves right into the dark.
Mm-hmm. That is very, very true. And we became afraid of the dark.
Yeah,
Instead of becoming the light in the dark, we got thrown into the dark, and then it's like, I'm blind, I can't see. But how do you feel?
yeah,
Right? You can touch and see. The kinesthetic touch and feel, we're so, you talked earlier about, the head, the conditioning. I say that one part of our brain is the mechanical, it's what runs the body. The other part is programming. And that programming is not just your lifetime, your ancestral DNA past life patterns that are there. And we have to look at this programming and go, does it serve me now? Does it serve me in the now? And how much of this program is something I just need to delete and reprogram? Or how much of this programming can be readjusted and maybe go with us? And whose programming is it anyway?
Yeah, I mean, when I was a vet nurse, we used to have work experience children in, round about the age of 14 onwards. And I'd made the stipulation that I didn't want anybody to be there who wasn't wanting to go into the business, who
Hmm.
wasn't wanting to be a vet nurse or a vet. And this young lady came in, and I used to interview them just to make them see what it would feel like, and for me to get a good idea of what I was going to be getting in my practice with me to be responsible for. And this young lady came in at one point, and our teacher came with her, which was unusual. And I was speaking to her, and she said, "Oh, I want to be a vet nurse." And I said, "All right then." I said, "Don't you want to be a vet?" She said, "I can't be a vet." I said, "Why not?" She said, "I'm not clever enough."
Hmm.
And I said to her, "Who told you that?" I said, "You know, if there's something that you really, really want to do,
Yeah,
there are ways around these things, because everybody's clever in different ways.
yeah,
And sometimes it's a matter of how you can be taught, not what you can't learn."
yes,
And so
100%.
I went out there, and she went off, and I said to her, I said, "So try, aim for that, because if you aim for the stars, you
Mm.
might land on the moon.
Right,
It's still 1,000 miles away from where you thought you could be,
right.
and you are always more than you think you are,
Always,
always more capable than you think you are,
always.
because you have to get out of your own way." And the teacher came in to me and she said, "I wish you hadn't told her that. There's no way that she can do that." I said, "Is it you that tells her this? A teacher who's supposed to inspire to
Mm.
aspire." I said,
What'd she
I had
say?
teachers. I said, "I had teachers like you. And as I said earlier in this program, they told me and my parents that I wouldn't even be able to work behind a shop counter without help.
Mhm.
And I've gone all the way to Monaco and back again as a head nurse at veterinary practice. And I actually count when I'm doing it, because the shame's not there anymore."
Right. Imposed shame,
Yeah.
imposed limitations.
And I said to her, your job is to encourage these kids. Your job is to inspire them,
Mm.
not give them your judgment as to what they may or may not be capable of in the future.
Or impose your own limitations on them.
Yes, yes.
Hmm.
I mean, I went to university when I was 50, and I went because as an act of defiance, actually, because it was a case of, oh, tell me I'm never going to get to university. Well, it might have taken me a while,
Hmm.
but here I am. And I was doing statistics in psychology, and me who can't count.
Right.
And I thought, oh, this is going to be bad. I'm going to have to go. You see,
Hmm.
conditioning. This is going to be bad.
Exactly.
I'm going to have to go and get, but I'm going to have to go and get some help. And I took it, and I took my little book, and I went to this, and he was a little um, Chinese PhD student person, and I said to him, he said, "What can I help you with?" I said, "This. I can't figure this out. I don't work this. It doesn't work for me, and I have statistics for 2 years, and I need to be able to do this." And he said, "But you can't do this." No, I can't. "Yes, you can." "No, I can't." And I'm thinking to myself, are we having a communication problem here? And then I thought, so I opened up the book, and there was an equation there, and I said, and this is where I actually hit myself on the head with the inspiration stick. I said, this here, this language I don't understand. And it was then it just went bam. You love language. You
Hmm.
adore words. You like to speak different languages. This is a language.
Yeah.
See it that way.
Hmm.
Learn it that way. And he took me through one by one. And the girl who couldn't even get an arithmetic O level ended up doing percentiles within a week.
You took away your own limitations
I
or the
took away my
limitations that were
limitations
imposed upon you. Yeah.
because through the training that I've had in NLP, particularly, but also the shamanic training, it's a case of my mind now understands the inroads, how to catch me out when I'm saying something
Yes.
that's less than totally positive about my experience or my capabilities.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so,
That I completely understand. I out of 12 years of schooling, I completed six. I'm not in consecutively, but I was always off school, especially during the winters as a sickly child. So at home in bed, and I'll go back to school and they'll think I'm a new kid because they haven't seen me in so long, which meant I was way, way behind. At 16, I exempted myself from school because I was so far behind and I went, I'm never going to catch up. I'm never going to be academic. What else can I do? But I've always been an adventurer. And at 16, I'm running somebody's shop. And then I go into other places and run departments. And I never went in to do those jobs. I just seemed to fall into those jobs because I had a natural leadership about me. And, and I was still kind of feeling I'll never get anywhere because I'm not academic. But in the meantime, I was going somewhere, you know, just through experience. And that's the thing is, we equate the academic structure with intelligence, and it's totally different. I was actually a very intelligent person who could not be taught through the academics. Dyslexia, which I only found out when I was 21, being away from school so much, right? And no homeschooling or catching up or anything like that. And like you, there were certain things that didn't make sense to me. Once they made sense, no problem. But they didn't make sense to me the way they were presented. And I remember having an argument with a teacher. She was teaching vocational guidance and she made a statement. And I said, actually, that's wrong. I actually went through that experience 2 days ago, da 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 da, and I can't even remember what it is now. And she said, no, you are wrong. It is this way. And I said, but I went through the experience, exactly what you're talking about. Go to the principal's office. Went to the principal's office. She heard the teacher's argument. She heard my argument. And she said to the teacher, but you went through the experience. Why didn't you honor that? I'm the teacher, so what I say goes. And the headmistress turned around to me and said, you do not have to attend her classes anymore.
mm,
And I didn't.
and that's an amazing head teacher.
Yes.
And I must admit, there's been so many teachers, and I believe that actually what happened to me and happened to thousands upon thousands, if not millions, of children across the way, is that they are taught a way to teach,
Yes.
and many of them don't look outside the boundaries of that teaching.
Nope.
It's getting a little bit different now, I suspect, but there are still a lot of limitations put on children because it may be their social standing, it may be, you know, the parents' expectations and what school they put them into.
Yeah,
But
I had a wonderful educator on the other day. She's a teacher and she's written some wonderful books. But what she has on the board there is an emotion face, and the kids can come in and pick the emotion they're in today. So
mm,
she knows, oh, they're sad today, or they're excited today, or they're this, and they can change the emotion through the day. But it gives her an indication. And then it also opens up. Okay, why are you sad today?
mm,
Why are you angry today? What's gone on? And that is giving kids permission to speak, to express themselves, to speak to how they're feeling. Whereas we are teaching children to listen to what I say, do as I tell you, do not think outside of the boundaries of what I tell you. And then we expect them to be functional adults later on.
yeah, we sew them up in this cloth.
Yeah,
We sew them up in this suit of limitations.
yeah.
So this is the thing, though. We can unpick it.
Yes, we can. We
We can
can
put
remodel
parts
that
up.
outfit.
We can actually take it up out. We can put it in the recycle bin, and we can take some new stuff and start a loom, and we can make our own wool. We can actually knit ourselves a new suit. We
Yes,
can sew ourselves a new suit. We can weave ourselves a new suit.
in
But it's
any
still a
color
suit.
we want.
But it's still a suit.
Yes.
And what we have to do then is we have to realize that what we want is a garment that's going to grow with us, beyond us all the time,
Yes.
so that we can walk into it, we can go farther. And in going farther, we can experience the highs and lows, but not take it too hard.
Yeah.
Not wear it like a hair shirt for the rest of our lives. We have to be able to leave behind that which does not serve us in
Mm-hmm.
such a way. And I don't mean just drop everything. And people tend to take these things literally,
I know.
and it's an interesting thing. When we say leave behind that which does not serve you, it's a case of how long is it going to take you before you realise that there's a different way?
Mm-hmm.
How long is it going to take? Do you need a piano to drop on your head?
The
I mean,
cosmic two by four.
yeah, we've discussed this before. I mean, basically, the universe telling me
Yeah.
there's been what, two cars, a bus, an elephant, and a couple of horses, not to mention a bout with cancer.
Mm-hmm.
However, these are all near-death experience situations going on.
Right.
However, I didn't get it at first,
Yes.
and so I got another one,
Exactly.
and then another one,
Mm-hmm.
and suddenly it was a case of maybe I'm doing something wrong. Maybe I'm doing something that I shouldn't be doing, and there might be something that I could do over here.
Yeah.
And it was amazing to me that up until the point where I got to be a head nurse in this practice and everything was going all right, up to that point, I'd really more or less fallen into every job. Doors had been open for
Mm-hmm.
me, it was the right way to go. I was in my ugly duckling lake, I hadn't yet become my swan. And it was actually there that I got my first swan feather.
Mm-hmm.
And I got my dog. I got sent a dog. Strangely enough, as a vet nurse, it's an occupational hazard.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to end up with a puppy at one point, or a three-legged, or you know, cat, dog, a beakless parrot, something like that is going to happen. And this girl came in one day with this little puppy stuffed up her jumper and put him on the dental table. Unfortunately, it was the day the boss was actually working in the morning, and he was in a hurry because he had to go and get an appointment at 12 o'clock. And here's this little wormy, pot bellied little puppy thing with cigarette burns all over him.
Oh,
And she looked me straight in the eye and she said, "This boy needs a home." And I said, "No, I'm in here like 80 hours a week. I can't raise a puppy. That wouldn't be fair." And all the time I'm talking, he's like,
I know. But I chose you.
"Yes." And then, of course, he chose his own name
Mm-hmm.
because he paid attention when I said Fergus. And he kind of looked at me and I went, "Oh, not Tosca, not Jack, no, Fergus." "Okay, Fergus it is."
Mm-hmm.
And I said, I'll look after him. I'll foster him for a couple of weeks until you find something for him." I had him for 9 years,
Mm-hmm.
and till we found that he'd actually had cancer. He had lymphoma, and so, but in doing that, he took me out of my lake.
Mm-hmm.
He took me out into the big wide world,
Yes.
where I met other people who walked
Mm-hmm.
their dogs. And
Mm-hmm.
then I actually went and got my tarot cards read. And she told me, "You're going to leave what you're doing." And I was like, "Oh, yeah, okay." "I don't think so. Because basically, I'm going to be found rigor mortis with a squeegee in one hand and a thermometer of a dog's bum with the other." Because and this is the weaving of the cloth.
Mm-hmm.
I don't see myself doing anything else, ever. And within 2 years, I was out of there. And I found myself walking up a street in Glastonbury, and there was an A-frame with something that I had already been told on it. Because one day I'd been talking to one of the receptionists about runes, and she said, "I'll bring them in." So she did. And she said, "Pull out a couple of there." And I did, and there was Tear. And she said, looked at me and she said, "You're a warrior in your heart."
Mm-hmm.
I thought, "I'll take that." And from that time, it was about 5 years or so, I'm in Glastonbury. Warrior in the Heart, shamanic training. That'll be for me then. No pianos necessary. And that's when everything started to change.
Hmm.
And that's when I went in for the NLP training, and I started to learn about how what we say to each other, but
Hmm.
also particularly what we say to ourselves, is so damning
Yeah.
and can be so debilitating. And I discovered the opponent who lives below the imposter syndrome, who lives in a secret, silent clearing in a wee forest that's far, far away, inside you, so deep inside you that you can't see them normally.
No.
But in the quietest times, in between breaths, you'll hear them. What makes you think you can do that?
Hmm.
And it will be the voice of someone who bullied you, or
Yep.
who defamed you, or threw insults at you,
Denied you. Hmm.
denied you, who had so little feeling of respect for you
Hmm.
that made you feel like an ugly duckling,
Right.
not wanted, not, you know, whichever one it is. And I sat there and I said, who the hell is that? Because you don't have any place near me at all. And I made that opponent my ally. I made it my sounding board.
Hmm.
And I take it out sometimes, and being shamanically inclined, I have a campfire situation going on. And I'll sit this opponent next to me on the campfire and we'll have a discussion. And I'll say something like, going on this podcast in Canada, a couple of days' time. What do you want to do that for? You're in Scotland. Do you think they're going to care? Well, actually, we're global now. Did you not know? Are you not paying attention? This is something that we have a voice, and there's a reason for this that's going on, and we have the media and the medium to use it.
Hmm.
Well, there's not a lot I can say about that, is there? Go ahead and see what happens. Right then. And here I am.
Yep.
So it's a way of actually saying, you're not my enemy, you're just a part of me that's still in fear.
Yeah. And it's your doubt. And sometimes we just have to face it and say, okay, well, what's your argument? Is
Yeah,
this
but it.
a past doubt? Or
Mm,
are you feeling doubtful about something? Should you pause for the moment and reflect? Is this a past voice coming, telling me I can't do it? Or is this a pause saying, okay, yeah, you could do it, but maybe you should do it a different way?
yeah. And the interesting thing is that you always know it's the opponent, because it has the voices of those who would be putting you down.
Right.
Whereas the voice of your guardian spirit, of your sovereign self, is the one who says, you can do this and you
Yes.
will do this.
Yes. Yeah, the
All you
two
have to
sides
do
of
is
you, I always
believe.
say,
Yeah.
yeah, and I've had many altercation with my two sides because my one side, the human side, as I call it, the humanoid, was brought up with no expectations. Like she didn't finish school, she doesn't have an education, she has dyslexia, she's not very bright, she's never going to go very far. Let's just hope she makes a good marriage. Right.
Yeah.
And I didn't, and whatever I did succeed in, it wasn't in a realm they understood anyway, so therefore it couldn't be valid. And then the other side of me going, but how do you know if you can't do it until you've tried doing it?
Mm.
Let's just do it and see. Right.
Yeah.
So that is the side that's always governed me, but I had to drag the other side along with me until eventually it's saying, like, really, you're pulling me down and I cannot take this negativity anymore.
Yeah. I mean, it's a case of we've learned that fear, we've learned that doubt.
Yeah.
We heard it from somewhere else,
Yes.
and we took it on board, and we started to wear it like our own
Right.
new shoes.
Yep.
And we even wore them in to ourselves to make them comfortable and fit our own feet.
Yep.
and to sit there like a heavy stone in our hearts sometimes.
Yep.
And actually, when you let it go and you put it down and you say, right, that's not mine. Just, it's not mine.
Right.
What is mine?
Right.
I want to discover what mine is.
Who
How
am
do we
I?
do that?
Yeah.
But it's not even who am I. It's where am I?
Mhm. What
What,
lies before me? What
what is
wonders?
it? What
Yeah.
direction do I go?
Mhm.
And as Alice in Wonderland, a very shamanic book, will tell you,
Yes.
if you don't know, it doesn't matter what road you take.
Right.
And as Castaneda would tell you, as long as you take the path that's got heart in it.
Yeah.
Because if it doesn't have heart, it's not worth your shoe leather.
No. No.
And if you take that because you think it has heart, and you keep going, and then you find out, oh, do you know what? It really isn't. It was a fair facsimile of, but it's not quite. There is no shame in stopping. In fact, it's one of the bravest things you can do.
Yeah.
Is say, do you know what? I've given it a good shot. This isn't working. I'm going to go back and try another route.
Yes, that's just simply called redirection. I don't believe in failure. Like if you fall on your bum, you get back up. Okay, that didn't work. Let's try something different. That is just life's lessons, redirection, gathering information. I feel failure is when you give up and do not ever attempt to try. You give in. And I'm not a giver inner. You know, for me, it's like, okay, that didn't work. There's got to be another avenue. All right, I wasn't meant to do that, but what was I meant to learn from it? How do I take it forward on another journey? And it's having some wonderment and excitement about life, because if you can't be excited about living, why are you living? How can you give
Well,
it your best?
we're here
Mm.
because we're living in this situation where we can get to feel things, we can get to experience things, where the part of us that's non flesh and bone and blood, the spiritual part of us, the energetic part of us,
Hmm.
is sitting there going, oh, that's what that's like.
Hmm.
Wow, I wonder if we could do that.
Yeah.
And oh, that's what that's like. But actually, this is where it comes down to it. We are more than the sum of our parts.
Yes.
And we are much more. And as soon as we stop compartmentalizing ourselves from mind, body, and spirit, that actually spirit is something way woo woo over
Yeah.
there.
Yeah.
And your mind is that's the golden egg at the moment for a lot of people. It's like, oh wow, yeah, if we play with this and we do that and we take this out of here and we put that there, and then there's the body. And you've heard me say it before, Sarah, that the surgeons can say when they come out from the operation that the operation was a complete success, but unfortunately the patient died
Yeah.
because they were only working on the machinery. They didn't
Yes.
take into account the influence of the mind, and
Right.
even less
Oh, the
did they
heart of
take
the
into
soul.
account
Hmm.
the spirit and the energy of it.
Yeah.
Because if someone goes in, doesn't matter if you're the best surgeon in the world, if someone goes onto that table and they're afraid and they think they're going to die, there's a good chance they will.
And many, many people die from diagnosis. Yeah.
Yes.
It's, you have cancer. And instead of, okay, I've got cancer. Why have I got cancer? What can I do about it? What
Yeah.
can heal me? I'm going to, take charge of this. I'm going to be that warrior. They go, I have cancer. This is the end. And that's it.
But
They
that's not
die way before, they're meant to.
but it's not even just the person who's got it that does that.
Yeah.
And
All the
it's
people around them.
it's all the people
Oh,
around them who are
yes.
suddenly, oh, this is what I would feel and what I would do if I
Yeah.
got that diagnosis. And, it's now one in two.
Imposing, imposing,
It's
imposing.
imposing and
Yeah.
judging
Yeah.
also. Oh, they're never going to be able to handle that,
Right.
you know? And it's very much is a case of, now I've got two instances here, and one of them's with an animal. But for me, I went into, and I said to my husband, I said, we're not telling a lot of people about this. We're only telling the people who can handle it. I'm not going to put me in a wooden overcoat before the sentence is finished.
Right. Exactly.
And so we only told the people who were absolutely necessary. However, I went into a doctor's office to have some, because I ended up with type 2 diabetes after the chemo. Um, and I had to go in and get some advice from a nurse. And when I said to her what it was for, she went, "Oh dear."
Mm.
And I went out to the doctor and I said, "I don't ever want to see that woman again." She really lowered my energy in there. She
Feeding the disease and not the
she
solution.
fed the disease,
Mm.
and it was a case of something that I realised with Gussie, with Fergus, my dog. Like I say, he had lymphoma, and he went on and on and on and on and on and on and on, quite happily, quite happily, quite happily. And I had been off on holiday at one point with him, and he came up, and it's one of those things that when you're in that profession, your fingers become your eyes,
Hmm. Hmm.
and I was just stroking him, and suddenly I felt these lumps, and they were in the wrong place. And I looked at him and I said to him, "Is there something you want to tell me?" And he kind of looked at me, and everything was okay until I took him back to work. And I said to one of the vets, "I have to x ray Fergus. There's something going on." As soon as he got that x ray, that was when that dog went downhill.
Mm.
Because that was when everybody knew what was
Yeah.
going on with him. And he, on an energetic level, knew that that was happening. And it was almost as if it was a relief for him. I don't have to be pretending I'm perfectly healthy anymore,
Right.
you know? And he came into my life at the right time, and he left my life in his time that
Hmm.
was right for him. And so he was my way out of the darkness of that lake. He
Hmm.
was the spring to my winter
Yeah.
that was spent in that lake. And basically, since then, I've been able to travel so many different places. I mean, in 2019, I went to Tibet, which I'd wanted to do since I was 6 years old, because when I was about 5 or 6, round about the time when I was making the transition from sister to daughter,
Hmm.
I had a visitation in my room and I was woken up to see it. And I've since discovered that that's one of the signs that you're going to walk a shamanic path.
Mm. Yeah. For me, I used to play with dead people.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, there were a lot of spirits in my life for
Yeah.
a long time.
Well, why can't you
Ah,
see them? I mean, she's sitting right there. My mum
yeah.
looking at me, so,
I mean,
but actually, I mean, in the years that, I was bed bound and kind of left alone a lot, those entities is what kept me going.
yeah, yeah. And some of them are quite funny.
Yes.
Yeah, they have a great sense of humour because they
Yeah.
get bored. Nobody can see them. That's no fun.
And
Unfortunately.
off I would travel into different dimensions and not even realize I was doing it. So, yeah.
It's amazing understanding it. When I went to get my cards read, and the woman said to me, "You should be doing this because you're doing it anyway. You need to know what to call it and how to actually master it."
Mhm.
And she said to me, "You're doing other things as well that you're going to find out about." And I was like, "What?" And she said, "You'll see." And it was the shamanic journeying.
Mm.
It was being able to take myself off on a sunbeam
Yes.
and go into another place, actually ride that into another place, be like a mote of dust dancing inside a sunbeam,
Yeah.
and it's a learning experience, but it's one of those things that we all have the capacity to
Yes,
do.
we do.
It's just
Yeah.
that some people have told us that we can't.
No,
And we
they've
believe them.
shut us all down, because let's face it, in a religion, they want control over you, so they keep you in fear, heaven and hell, right? And you can't speak to God unless it's through them, and
Hmm.
where we have a direct channel to source, whatever you wish to call it. Um, Teachers and governments want to keep people in control, which how do you keep them in control? You dumb them down and you keep them in fear, right?
Yep.
So when you want to break away from that mold and say this platform does not fit me, I cannot fit in it, and you break away course, then you are a rebel, right? So but it's necessary, and I think what we're seeing now is the walls are coming down and more people are realizing there aren't any boxes. All these boxes that you've been put in, all these labels that you've been having, all this dictation of what you should be. It's like, no, I am not that person. I do not need to adhere to this world. I realize there are no borders. There's boundaries, but no borders, and it's lovely to see people awakening into that. But the soul cannot speak to a closed heart. And one of the
No.
first things we have to do is open our heart. And that's one of the things that we have the difficulty with because generally we feel injured in the heart because
Mm.
we weren't allowed to be ourselves and to explore and to just be. And so we've closed our heart off because it was so painful. If we have the courage and the strength to open our heart up again, our source and divine soul will speak to us and guide us forward, lift up our spirit. And again, the mind will know what it needs to know when it needs to know it.
And it's one of those things that basically, when we're doing that, we have to be able to understand that there are going to be some people who are still
Mm-hmm.
cast adrift and don't quite know where to go because they have no idea, because they've always been taught that the kind of things that we're speaking about just now are totally wrong. They're
Yes.
totally, it's not nice, it's
Heathen.
nasty, it's bad, it's
Yes.
evil, it's this, that, the other. And actually, the most evil thing is to amputate a spirit.
Oh, God. I mean, Northern Lights, The Golden Compass is, one of my favorite books because it talks of, the soul is in the animal that the child gets to speak to, and it
Human.
becomes a set animal when the child reaches puberty. Until then it's constantly changing, and it's like you're always speaking to your consciousness, you're always speaking with your soul. And it's like I was so when I read this and I thought, oh, I wish I had that. And of course, where's the evil? The evil is them severing that animal, that soul from the person. And but we do it to ourselves. We shut
Yep.
down our own soul.
And that's because we're not taught to actually immerse ourselves in the idea of it.
No,
We're taught that the soul is something that we have no right because we are sinners.
yes,
We How can we touch our own souls? We don't. It doesn't belong to us to play with.
right.
And
And that
it's
we
a
need to suffer.
yeah.
And that only we can only be righteous if we suffer the pain and the anguish of life. What?
I think we
Who
suffer
wrote that
enough.
one?
I think we actually suffer enough.
I think so. I think so.
Basically, I think it's a case of understanding the idea of the word suffer. I mean, in the Bible, Christ said, "Suffer the little children to come unto me." He didn't mean beat them to a pulp
Yeah.
in order to take them. He meant allow them. So in that way, the word suffer means to allow.
Mhm.
And I think that should be looked at as far as suffering is concerned, is allowing yourself to reach your soul. And psychology means soul speak.
Yeah.
And interestingly, it's also a science,
Hmm.
but they're still not talking to each other.
No.
The soul and the speak are still not speaking to each other
Yeah.
quite yet. They're not speaking the same language.
Yeah. It's getting there.
It's
It's
getting
getting.
there. It is
It
getting
is.
there. I think
Yeah.
that what we've got to do is do it one at a time, one small thing at a time. Take
Yeah.
a moment, take a break, look at where you are, and if it's getting to overwhelm, if it's getting to the stage where you want to pull your skin off or whatever, just take a moment. And the best thing that you've got on your side is your breath.
Oh boy. Yeah.
When we breathe, we inspire. We take in spirit, in
Hmm.
spiritus, that is inspiring. When we exhale, we expire.
Hmm.
We let the spirit out. So we're taking one in and we're letting one out. And it's a case of that exchange of energy is allowing the machine to
Yeah.
actually fire itself up and to go. But what it also does is it regulates the brain
Mm.
and it allows the brain waves to change. And when you actually breathe, you are making your cortisol, your oxytocin, your your GABA and dopamine, they're all sitting there waiting for the experience And we have the ability, because we have this brain, we have these chemicals inside of us. We don't need drugs to do this. Nobody
No,
needs drugs to do it. We have ample resources within ourselves to do this, to actually get to the source. When we experience it once, and sometimes people will have done it and not know how to do it again because they did it by accident.
right. And they feel they have to think it
Yeah,
rather than feel it.
but what we have to do is we have to get this part of our brain to go to the back of the bus and allow
Yes.
your sovereign self, allow the oversoul to actually say,
Yeah.
"Hello, would you like to speak to me? Come and see me now."
Yeah.
And
The
it's the
big word is
beauty.
allow, isn't it?
Mm.
It's one I use a great deal because we block so much because we do not allow ourselves to have the experience. Well, I don't know what it's going to be like. Can you give me a map? Is there a manual on it? No. Your life experience goes into your toolkit, and you are meant to allow yourself to put one foot in front of the other with a sense of adventure, a sense of exploration, discovery, and your toolkit will come out as you need it. But if we're trying to do everything like paint by numbers, need to have the manual in front of us, we are missing out on the true experience of what we're here to have and to become.
We have right now the opportunity to do things differently now.
Oh boy,
We
and
right
we
now,
should.
the earth is taking a breath.
Yes.
The earth is showing us the refreshing, the rebooting, the reviving of a breath. And it is telling us you are a physical manifestation of the universe.
Hmm.
You are every part of me. I am every part of you. There's an Australian song, The Walking Tree. I breathe in what you breathe out. You breathe
Hmm.
in what I breathe out. And if that's chaos, that's what you're going to get. If it's peace and harmony, that's what you're going to get. And it's that sigh,
Hmm.
decompress, allow the whole shenanigans that are going on outside to go on. Control what you can control, and that's your breathing.
Yes. Yes, centering yourself, being, it, it taking that breath, it aligns your chakras, it opens you up completely, opening up to that wonderful divine wisdom. There's a sense of peace about it, but it's also stepping into flow, stepping into rhythm. And when we step into that beautiful rhythm, that lovely frequency, that lovely wavelength of it, we we can dance such a beautiful dance. And it's okay. Sometimes it's the cha-cha-cha, sometimes the tango, sometimes it's the soft waltz, but it's going again in that rhythm and in that flow. Our blood, our oxygen, our waters, our air all need to be in flow. We need to be in flow.
And they flow naturally around our bodies.
Yes.
Everything is a physical manifestation of and representation of everything that needs to happen. When we get ill, everything around us gets ill.
Hmm.
In our bodies, it's an energetic thing that our bodies are getting ill, and we can feel it happening. It's like the old Arthurian legend in the Grail King. Who does the Grail serve? And it's the king, the Grail King, who is dying but can't drink of his own Grail until a question is asked. And the question is, who does the Grail serve? It's as simple as that. We
Hmm.
don't have to overcomplicate
I
things,
oh, but we love to. We
but
like to
we do.
highfalutin everything.
Yes.
Yes.
You say one thing and someone else says, but that's not right because you
Yes.
have to do it this way, or that's never going to work. That may well be the case for you, but it's horses for courses.
Hmm.
What I use may not be for everyone else, but there will be many people who will come and who will benefit from the kind of things that I do,
Exactly.
that I can teach. And the one thing that I would teach everybody is to say, learning to breathe is your first step.
Hmm.
It's the first smallest step, understanding that by changing your breathing from here up to diaphragm down will make such a difference.
It's peace, it's clarity, it's opening up, it's being able to receive. It's that pause of thought, and it allows, your soul, heart, and spirit with its own divine intellect to have a voice, because the head can be so overpowering.
Mm.
And if we're only listening to the head all the time, which is programming, it's a different form of intellect, and we're not engaging our heart, soul, and spirit and that divine intellect, we're not going to have the wisdom to understand how to use the knowledge.
And there's a whole plethora of knowledge out there
Oh, gosh.
that actually can be self-taught.
Yes.
And this is the joy of being a seeker of knowledge,
Mm-hmm.
is that you will find stuff, and it's like I say to people who come for shamanic work, and it's a case of sometimes the coat doesn't fit.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes it's like the coats that my mother used to buy me when I was going to school when I was a very little girl. She'd buy one 2 sizes too big so I could grow into it.
Right.
Might not fit just now, but give yourself a little time to grow, and it may well fit really snugly afterwards.
It's like, you put on an outfit and you just don't quite know because it's different. You haven't worn this style before. And the
Mm.
next thing you know, it becomes your favorite outfit
Yeah,
until you're willing to try on another one. It's going back to familiarity. We want to feel comfortable and familiar in something, but not familiar to the point where it stops us from moving forward. Just
yeah.
comfortable enough to be able to have the confidence to move forward.
It's even to the state where it's in such alignment and such harmony with
Mhm.
us that it's like our own skin.
Yeah,
We don't even feel it when we're wearing it. We are so in
yeah.
tune with it and so in that dance with it that we're in what athletes would call the zone.
Yes. Yeah.
There is no barrier, there is no skin, there is no story, there is no space, there is no time. There just is.
Hmm.
And when we get that, it's something that's so Moorish. It's just so exciting, and you just want to keep doing it. And yet, we did it when we were children. Then we got our potty training and got trained right out of it.
Right. Well, there certainly is time for change, isn't it? And a lot of people are pointing, they think, yeah, but that's got to change, and that's got to change, and that's got to change. But you've got to realize you need to be the change to bring about the change. So if you don't like what's going on out there, it's a reflection of what's going on within here. And
Yeah.
so you need to change within here, and then atmospherically, you will have that vibration that can change things around you.
The one thing that you can definitely change is what's going on with yourself.
Exactly. That's the only thing that you really have control of.
And by doing so, you affect therefore your immediate environment, which
Yeah,
then changes, which changes the next part, which changes, and it becomes a snowball effect.
exactly. The rhythm, the dance, it just becomes something quite natural until there is another change and involvement that needs to happen, and we're always in growth. It isn't about the destination. You
No,
have different chapters. You bring a chapter to an end, and that's the conclusion of that chapter. What's the next chapter going to be?
and you can wear out many pairs of shoes on the journey.
Yes, exactly. You can try on stacks of different types of clothing. I know for me, I'm the gypsy in me. Give me the clothes that flow, colorful and flow, and that move with me in a sense of rhythm and like wind, right? That's what I love. I don't like constraint and restrictive type clothing because it feels like a straitjacket. And it's just right down to our clothing, the color that we wear, because color is so important. It can change your psyche. Even the fabric that you wear can change the way you feel and connect to things. Everything has a reason. And when you start putting those reasons together, now you've got a symphony, you've got an orchestra that's ready to play. And like, let it loose, let it be.
We all have a voice to sing with.
We do.
We all have music to dance to.
Absolutely.
And
Get
we
with
can
it. Get with the
dance.
tune.
Yeah, I mean, we shamanically drums, we are noisy buggers. I know we
Yeah.
are. But the first drum that you will ever hear is the drumbeat of your mother's heart,
Hmm.
and then your own takes over and joins in.
And what do we look for in life? We look for that beat of the heart in the land and all that we do. We're constantly looking for that beat because that beat is that constant rhythm from which we can create other sounds, other songs to go with. But it's always when you're looking, it's the bass or it's the drums that sets the beat. The heart sets the beat, right? Ignite with that beat, go with that rhythm.
When
Let
your
your
heart
toes
starts,
start dapping and let your voice free. Yeah.
yeah, and it,
Ah, we have a lot of work ahead of us, but it doesn't have to be hard. We're going to go through some challenges and obstacles where you think, gosh, I'm not sure I'm getting this. Okay, turn it around or look at it from a different angle or hear it from a different voice. And then it'll be, oh, okay, now I get it. It's not, one person is going to be your all. One person is going to help you here, and then you're ready to hear another person over here. But that's the wonderful journey of life of the people that you meet along the way that become your light bulb moment, that become, try this skill, try this tool, put this in your backpack. And when you need it, it's there. And
you're,
we've got to
you're
be willing to learn.
you're setting your cap by allowing your
Yeah.
universal mind to understand that you're ready, that
Yes.
you're going to go there, and basically you start to find your path. The pathfinder will come and get you and will show you the way. And it's very true.
Yeah.
When the student is ready, the
Hmm.
teacher will come.
Yes. So be aware and allow.
Yes.
Don't start getting into, but yes, what, this, that, don't know, no. Sit on your butt. That's the only butt that you need. It's like instead of, okay, I'm allowed, take me where you need me to go. I'm ready, willing, and able.
As Judge Judy would say, you have one mouth and two ears for a reason. Shut up and listen.
Yeah. Let what comes in the ears articulate and understanding what comes out of the mouth. Right? Take it in, take a
Yeah.
pause, take a breath before you respond.
And also listen with the ears behind your ears and
Yes.
see with the eyes behind your eyes.
Yeah.
Allow all that is there to be seen and heard,
Yeah.
and understand that that is your truth.
Right. I have to feel my knowledge. I have to feel what I listen to. I have to feel what I do with it. If my core is not attached to it, I can't do it. If my core or my feeling is that, yes, I don't need to understand it, but this feels good, let's go with it. Let's see where it takes me. Then I know I'm off on another exploration.
And that's the beauty of it.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
It's how did I get here? Does it matter? I'm here.
No.
Where am I going? Does it matter? It's there.
Yeah. But who am I having an impact on? Inspiration begets invitation. Become that inspiration for others because that's an invitation for them to believe if she can, I too can, and allow.
The best way to do it is to allow yourself to shine.
Yes, be abundant. Let your cup runneth over,
Mm.
right? It isn't about, I don't want to shine too bright because it might scare everybody or people think I'm too big for my boots. Forget about that. You're in your boots. You've worked hard to be in your boots, right? If you're too shiny or too bright for other people, it's just they're not ready to see.
Yeah, and we
They've
get a
still
big
got a
thing
different
on.
journey to take before they can see.
It's it's one of the things that in the morning when I'm doing my affirmations, etc. The one thing that I say that one of the things I say that I'm grateful for is my shine,
Mhm.
and I say I am grateful to Spirit and to the universe for my shine. For when my shine is shone across the universe, it's reflected back by the mirror universe, and that arc can herald in by picking up all the would-be shines they don't know they can shine, those who've been told they will never shine or don't have one. They can all learn to shine. And when that happens, we can herald in a golden age of peace, prosperity, harmony. balance, and respect for the whole of the planet, animal, vegetable, and mineral, and even the bacteria and the viruses as well.
Yeah. Everything has a reason, and this global virus has had a reason, and it was to make us pause, to make us take that breath, to review our lives, to renew our directions, to understand what really is important and what isn't, and that not to be afraid to take a different direction, because that's the invitation. Try something new, go in a different way. And yes, not to at all undermine all the people that have lost their lives or have gone home to the universe, and the people that have been left behind, because that is always the balance of life too. But it is about the death that we need to have in our own lives, and the new birth that we need to birth ourselves with. And we don't want to go back to quote, quote, normal. Normal was not working for the planet. Normal was not working for humanity. We don't even want to have the word normal in it. But with
Yeah, normal wasn't normal.
what's normal, right? What's normal?
Yeah.
What we do want is some common codes of conduct. And what we do want is things to be heart based. If it comes from the heart, anything that you do in life, if it comes from the heart, truly, it can't be wrong. And it will be on a higher frequency, a higher vibration, and it will be more productive for mankind. So I think we are stepping right now into heart center,
Mm.
where we're learning to care, have more compassion, more empathy. And through that learning, there is a different path for us. There's a different journey for us. And in that compassion for each other, we can be so much more together rather than the me, myself, and mine, because that got nobody anywhere.
It's got to be ours.
Yeah,
It's got to be everyone's
yeah,
and everything's. We share this planet. We have to learn to share. We're like kids in the kindergarten who don't know how to share our toys.
right. Yes. And when you do see kids sharing, helping someone else, there's a program over here. Um, I think it's called Master Chef, and um, what's the name, Ramsay, and a few others, and they do it with kids,
Junior Master Chef, yeah.
right? And you can see kids of 8 to 13, and the way they support each other, the way they cheer each other on, and the way they comfort each other if they've had a bad dish. It is so warm and so wonderful. And yet they're still competing with each other, but it's not cutthroat. It's not like I'm going to get this no matter what. And that kind of camaraderie is something that we need to have for one another. You do what you do, I do what I do. Can it create an orchestra that can, be a wonderful symphony? That is what we look for. The orchestra. It's not about having the same instrument or my instrument's more important than yours. It's how can I bring my instrument to this orchestra where we can create some resonating music that is invitational and inspirational to others. What
Yep,
can we do collectively?
definitely.
So what are you offering your clientele right now? What are your programs, and how do people get hold of you?
Well, my programs, I'm building an online course at the moment on ceremony, which is bringing ceremony to the individual,
Mm,
allowing the individual to be their own celebrant, but also making the rites of passage happen every day too.
mhm.
Understanding that little things will bring you bigger things along the way. So just getting up in the morning and going outside and saying thank you to the sun
Yeah.
for coming up for the new day, going out and saying thank you to the snow for making everything quiet and beautiful and
Mm,
look really nice, and being able to make snowmen even. Understanding how to make rites of passage count, that your child comes in from their first day at school with a drawing and you make a fuss, but you can also make that a ceremony
yeah.
and make it a thing that they will remember. I did that. It was valued. I am valued. I am loved.
Yes.
I am noticed. and other ceremonies that we can do, even for ourselves.
Yeah.
When it just comes to having a bubble bath at night, can become a beautiful thing. Just the
Honoring
small
of
things.
self, right?
Honouring yourself,
Yeah.
but allowing yourself to be mindful of it, and not just be mindful, be present in the place, so we're not going too far forward and worrying and getting anxious.
Yeah.
I'm also doing, I've got a course coming up on Udemy quite shortly on making your own talking sticks
Mm.
and spirit sticks, and
Oh,
about how these things can be items of power
mm.
and allowing that to be. I've got some journey circles coming up where I'll be doing an introductory course. It'll be on Eventbrite too and on Facebook. You can get me on Facebook, Journeys with Bear and Wolf, and you can get me on Spiral Heart Healing on Facebook. And there's a blog, spiralheartscotland.com. And basically, I'm doing a lot of work over Zoom with people where I'm doing introductory calls and introducing them to the idea of healing over the internet with shamanism. But also, it's basically about the community of making circle and allowing people to open their hearts to this way of being and to understanding how they can actually take this and go forward.
Mhm.
I'm also doing a lot of storytelling because I do love to tell stories, in case you hadn't noticed.
Yes, yes. But we learn from each other's stories. We
Yes,
relate it. It shows, how similar we are or in the difference of how different we can be. That again, that inspiration begets invitation. And it's important to share a story. This is why, these are called the why shows. Why are you doing what you're doing? It's in your story. Your journey has led you to doing what you're doing today, serving others. And that is always an inspiration for others. So I'm going to go through your sites again. So it's spiralheart.co.uk, not .com, folks, spiralheart.co.uk. You've got spiralheartscotland.com. They can get hold of you at info@spiralheart.co.uk. And your Facebook is Shamanism Scotland. And your other Facebook is Spiral Heart Healing. And your Instagram is Spiral Heart 4. And Twitter is Spiral Heart 4. And there's another one here. Oh, no, that's the other one. So, yeah, you can get hold of you in all of these ways. And yes, people think, oh, well, it's online and I'm not going to get the same effect. Everything is energy. Everything has a signature. Just because you're not in the same room does not mean you do not have the same energetic presence, right?
yep,
Bring
there
your
are
energy,
healing.
it will meet, and then together you'll dance.
It's like anything, it's like doing distance healing and Reiki, it's like
Yes,
anything like that. Because we're putting energy out there, we are energetic creatures, we are
yes.
using just a different form of energy to flow straight to where you are and allow in the universal world to make you better.
Yep, yep. That's it. That's what it's about, right? We always want to become better, and it's not because we're flawed, is that because that's the permission for us to be so much more than we've allowed ourselves to be. One of the things I've learned from doing these shows for so many years is the common denominator is people discovering their strength, their courage, their abilities, what they're actually able to do, whom they're really able to serve. And it doesn't matter what they've gone through, how catastrophic some of it has been, where you look at them and you go, I wouldn't blame you if you curled up and died with what you've been through. Yet what they've been through, they've looked upon as a life lesson. And they're now sharing that lesson and the skills and tools that they use to thrive along with others. And that is something to be celebrated.
Yes.
Thank you so much for sharing your story here today and for doing the work that you're doing. We are in transition. Everybody's beginning to discover their wings and go, okay, there's more to life than what we've been conditioned to believe. And there's more to my story than what I was allowed to say. And it's time for me to explore who I am, why I'm here, what I'm capable of doing. And the work that you're doing helps people discover that in themselves and helps them discover what their service is to mankind, because we're all here to be contributors, aren't we?
Yes, we are. Thank you so much. Tash Delhi.
Bless you. Remember, folks, it doesn't matter where you came from, how you started, or even how rocky the road has been along the way. There are smooth waters ahead if you're willing to breathe, willing to learn, and willing to allow. And we need you to do that because that's actually what makes the world a better place. Until next time, bye for now. We hope that you enjoyed the show. You will hear many shows here on selfdiscoverymedia.com. We have new shows for you out every week. Just find them on our podcast or What's New. If you feel that you have something to share that makes a difference in the lives of others, or you too feel that you could be a host, please contact me at info@selfdiscoverymedia.com and we will be glad to speak with you. Have a wonderful day.